Hi, Mark here, and in this video today I'm going to look at picks and how they sound and how they make the sound change on acoustic guitar. Now, this video was kind of inspired by some of my younger and newer players who I'm teaching, I see every week, and there's a couple of discussions that come up. One of them is whether to use a pick anyway or fingers on acoustic guitar. Personally, I'm an advocate of both. I think sometimes it's nice to get that kind of tone from the fingers, and also the picking technique that you can do when you're playing simultaneous notes, like rather than strumming, obviously gives you a different sound. But also, one of the things I want to look at as well is what type of pick should you use and how they influence the tone, and also how they actually feel, which is as important. So you can have the nicest guitar in the world and all the best setup, and as you can see, I'm in my studio here. One of the reasons I want to talk about this is the tone that it actually generates for recording. But like I said, you can have the best guitar in the world and all of your stuff that you play can be changed by something that costs 50 cents or 50 pence, depending on where you live. So let's have a look at that in more detail and explore that a bit further. Okay. And in case I'm squinting a lot, I'm trying out some new studio lighting, and it's a bit bright, to be honest. I can't rely on the usual Spanish sunshine today because it's a bit cloudy and it keeps changing the light. So I thought I'd plug my lights in, but I feel like I'm on a runway about to get landed on by a plane. So bear with me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to explore what type of picks to use and the common ones. So you might have seen these purple ones. Generally the colours seem to reflect the different gauge, as they call it, which is to do with the thickness. So this seems to be quite a universal thing. I live in Spain, as you might know from other videos. I go to the UK quite a lot, and these are, you know, like common worldwide colours, if you like. So if you see a colour like that, you can pretty much guarantee what type of thickness it's going to be. So I've got a 1.14, which is what I would use for most of my lead playing and most of electric guitar stuff. There's a 1mm, so that's 1mm 0.14 to be precise. I don't know why they need to make it that fraction more, but who knows. So the 1mm, then we've got one here which is about, what does that say, 0.6. Sometimes you might see a yellow one which is about 75. And finally I've got one here which I actually I can't see how thick it is because it's kind of worn off. But this one's probably like 0.4 or something like that. So in terms of their rigidity, if you look up there, we try and bend that one and it's pretty tough. The 1mm has got a little bit more kind of flexibility in it. And then of course we've got these two which are a lot thinner. So this one, you can see you can practically bend that in half, and this one even more so. Okay, so let's have a look and see how these affect tone first of all. So I'm just going to play the same little 4-chord pattern over using each pick. So first of all we're going to use the heavy, the 1.14. Same again with the 1mm. Okay, so now we're going to use the orange one, which is quite a lot thinner. See how that sounds. Okay, now let's try the tiny little thin red one. can probably hear the attack is quite different. Say for example between this one, very thin, and the thickest one, which is, so you don't hear so much of that pick actually going through the strings where it goes like that. With the thinner pick it's more obvious, and with the thicker one. And so I'll explain that in a second, and I'll do a close-up so you can actually see what's happening with the pick. So finally, with fingers. So the way I would actually play, and I'm going to do another video about this actually, it's a different thing which seems to be coming up quite a lot in lessons. But I'm just going to use, for tonal differences now, I'm just going to use my fingers. So to hear that back to back now, I'm going to edit this video and just put in something so that you can actually hear them one after the other. Okay, so which pick you use is down to two factors really, two things. One of them is obviously what sound you want and what sound you prefer, and that's a very subjective thing. But it could have more influence if you're recording, for example, because if you want an acoustic guitar to cut through a mix in the background of a rock track, for example, you might want the slightly more percussive and kind of edgier sound of that to come through. That was beautiful, wasn't it? I've trained for months on that chord. And also, if you're kind of a singer-songwriter acoustic guitarist, you might not want the guitar to really kind of dominate your mix, and then you might want a slightly warmer sound. So, oh, that's better. So you might want to just put, you know, a slightly thicker pick in there if you're not using your fingers and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is actually how it feels, and in a second I'll do a close-up and show you what's actually happening when you hit the string with the pick, and show you what the contact is and what's going on there, because the feel of that is crucially important, and obviously, you know, it makes a big difference to your playing, how it feels to you. So let's have a close-up on that. In another video I'm going to look at the difference on how you should hit the strings if you're just using your hand, because that's something that, again, like I said, it keeps coming up with a lot of the beginners that I'm teaching at the moment. And there's no right or wrong, you know, it's always a personal thing. Sometimes I like to play with the pick if I'm strumming fast. Recently I did a show at the school that I work at occasionally with some of the guys there. We did like an indie kind of folk show, and we did some Mumford & Sons and some Codaline songs. And one of the Codaline songs, Love Like This, has a cap on the fifth, and it's really fast strumming all the way, like, and it's relentless. It goes through the whole song like that. And if you're watching Carmen and Nadina, hi guys, they were the stars of that show, two fabulous acoustic guitarists, and check them out I should say, on their channel, where they're called Carmen and Nadina. A YouTube channel, very original name, girls, like it. So, you know, you might not want to use your fingers if you're playing that relentlessly and that fast. You might want to use a pick, but which one of these would you use? You know, so again, it's a personal thing. You've got to check it out, try for yourself. So I'm going to be covering that in a bit more detail in another video, but for now let's look at the close-up, and I'll show you what's actually going on there. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, if you like these kind of videos, try to keep my stuff a bit different. You know, there's a million guitar videos out there showing you how to play songs. I'm more interested in really kind of showing you what goes on behind the scenes in terms of what you play, in terms of hand position and tips and stuff like that, to actually make you sound better. So if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe, and let's have a look at the close-up. So when you've got the thicker pick here, when you hit the string, you can see, look, what's happening is I'm pushing down on the string. There's no resistance in that pick at all. It's rock hard, okay? And that translates into a fuller tone from the strings and maybe a bit of a warmer tone. In comparison, going completely the opposite direction, look at the thinner one, and when I hit the string, you can see how much of the pick has actually moved. Let's see if I can get this into a better position for the camera. So look, I'm going to push down on the pick there, and you can see like how much is moving there. Okay, so if you're playing fast, you know, it might not be the ideal pick. If you're trying to do some really fast kind of moves there might be another pick, okay? Now the reason I'm really doing this video is because it's not always obvious that pick makes that much difference, especially to the younger players who have sort of, you know, only been playing a few months or whatever, and they go, oh yeah, I'll try a pick, and they just pick up one they like the colour of in the shop without really looking into it in too much detail. So look, this is the next thicker one. Still a fair bit of movement there. It's really hard to get this into position, but bear with me. So you can see it more on the upstroke, so there's a bit more. And then going back to the thicker one, and if I show you that on the upstroke, you know, it just doesn't give at all. There's no resistance there. You can see the strings moving out of the way. The string, and they're making a really firm contact. And compare that back to that one, and look, you know, the thing's practically bending before the string moves. So it's all down to tone and personal preference. So let me just get back away from the camera. High-tech stuff here. My camera crew team have deserted me. There is none. That was a fib. It's just me, in case you didn't realise. So the upshot for this video: if you like the sound of a pick, try a few out. See which one you like the sound of. Depends what you want to do, what genre you're playing, where, you know, if you're recording, like I said, if you want it to cut through the mix. So try a few out. Don't be shy. You know, for the sake of a couple of bucks, a couple of dollars, a couple of euros, a couple of pounds. Try a few out, see what you like, and obviously sometimes you might want to use one. Sometimes you might want to use a different one. Sometimes you might just want to use your fingers. But anyway, check it out. It's an important part of your playing. Makes a massive difference to the tone. And, you know, it's ironic really that sometimes the cheapest things can have the most influence on how we sound and on our playing. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.